Hi, I'm Rick Reynolds, founder and president of Affair Recovery. And today, I want to offer suggestions of how to avoid stalling out in the recovery process. And when I look at couples and individuals in recovery, just remember that there are three of you that can stall out. There's you, there's your mate, and there's us. And hopefully, the three of you are going to stay that course and find a new life of meaning and purpose. But if your mate isn't willing to rebuild or give you the chance to make amends or to change, you don't have to stay stuck. But also know that it's going to take two of you to build a new marriage. So perhaps one of you may do really well in recovery individually, and tragically, your mate isn't going to do the work. And if that's the case, we may not end up being able to salvage us. But I want to encourage you, stay the course to be a better person for yourself. So my first suggestion is change the lens that you see your mate through. Whether you were, the one who strayed or whether you're the one who was betrayed, allow your mate a chance to be different. If you maintain the same way that you've seen them all of the years, you'll never provide for the possibility to change how you see them. You'll feel trapped, you'll feel cursed, you'll feel stuck. Even if they're changing, you may not be able to see it. There's a natural tendency for us to have a mental filter on somebody. And so we take a single negative event, and I'm not saying just that infidelity is a negative event or something they've done that's really hurtful, and we let that one instance completely define them. Have you ever noticed if somebody's drunk, they may say something, or maybe you've said something when you were really angry, you were drunk, that you didn't really mean, but your mate continues to say, yeah, I knew it, I knew that's how you felt, and they keep hammering you with that one thing. Well, that's a mental filter, and you probably didn't even mean it. So you have to consider the possibility that when somebody has done something, that there's more to them than just a single bad decision, a horrible choice, or even something they say or do when they're drunk or upset. And you have to consider the possibility that, again, it's bigger. And that's called a mental filter. Don't allow a single negative event to totally define you or them and prevent you from being able to see things differently. Instead, look for new behaviors, look for exceptions, highlight and celebrate change. Let's say you go for weeks and you don't see the negative behavior, but then suddenly it goes back to the negative behavior, hits the wound, and suddenly you haven't changed at all. That's not going to be helpful. You and your mate work together. It's seeing what's honorable about each other and actually what's been honorable even about your marriage, and allow yourself opportunity to focus on the good. When you do that, you provide a space for things to be different. And like I said, if you can celebrate that, you can begin to move forward. Don't stall out in the discovery process. Some people have a gut feeling that there's something more. And they feel like they wouldn't even be trusting themselves if they let it go. But if at some point there's no new information, if answers remain consistent, then you might consider the possibility that you've got what you're going to get. Sadly, in one of the Q&As today, somebody said that they're 9 months into recovery and their mate can't stop asking questions. They just won't believe them, but they're telling the truth. Well, they may be telling the truth. It's sad to me when people get stuck in that whole discovery process. In fact, in the newsletter, Stuck, 3 Ways to Get Moving or to Overcome Being Stuck, we talk about how do you let go and move beyond discovery. It's something that Cindy Bell talks about. It's like you have to begin to ask yourself the question, how is continuing to ask questions going to help me heal? How's the answer to this question help me move forward? And, why do I really want to know? Because oftentimes, as she points out, it's about pride. I just want to see how big a fool I've been made of. And at some point, you have to curb that curiosity and accept that perhaps I know enough. Maybe the best you'll ever understand is 80%. And perhaps you want to ask yourself the question, if you feel that you're stuck in that discovery stage, what's the secondary gain to not letting go? Is it that you feel like you're a fool? Or you would have to be able, it'd cause you to begin to move forward. But until you can get past the discovery stage, you can't. So I want to encourage you, make it your goal to move beyond it. Don't expect it to necessarily make sense. So often, in my opinion, people are trying to make logical sense out of something their mate did that's completely illogical. And they are telling the truth as best as they understand. So at some point, again, make it a goal. Move beyond. Stop asking questions. Get to that place of acceptance. In the stages of grief, Kubler-Ross talks about denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and finally acceptance. And I think that a lot of people, when they get stuck in the discovery stage, they're still dealing at times with that anger stage of grief, and maybe they're moving into the depression. But a lot of times I think they're in the bargaining stage, just trying to figure out what they could have done different. But there does come a place where you have to go, okay, strange as it may seem, this is what happened. It is what it is. And no amount of questions and no amount of answers ultimately are going to make it any different. Another way to avoid stalling out in recovery is avoid making your mate responsible for your healing. I remember a gentleman telling me once, and this is kind of a loose quote, but he just said, it just felt like my self-esteem was shattered and my manhood attacked. So I kept asking my mate to help me and return what she took away. As simple as it sounds, I just can't allow her to be responsible for my recovery and healing when she's the one who let me down to begin with. I can't put my healing in her hands because she's the one who fumbled everything away and it almost cost us the Super Bowl. We can still heal and we can still be one, but I need a better running back, someone that can get us to the end zone. And I'm that running back. And I just love that guy's attitude. He was kind of like, okay, I'm going to quit looking to her to return to me what she took because she ultimately can't. But I can do it. And that's what I hope you'll do is you go, okay, I'm going to quit looking to them to make it okay. And I'm going to begin to become who I want to be. In the EMS Online and EMS Weekend, we always say, I'm responsible for me and I'm choosing to be safe for us. And again, understandably, if your mate's not going to be safe, us may not make it. But you can choose to become someone that you respect and a better version of who you once were. We all have room for improvement. Another suggestion for not stalling out is don't allow resentment and bitterness to hold you back, to weigh you down. Just make that commitment to get free. Whether or not we stay together as a couple, please get free. Part of that is self-forgiveness. Forgive yourself. Even if your mate hasn't forgiven you for things, in the long run, you want to jettison the shame and begin to feel good about yourself. That's the ultimate goal, to find new purpose and meaning in your life, to be someone that you respect. I would encourage you to avoid stalling out, to associate with others who are doing really well in recovery. Not only will they set a good example, but they'll also encourage you and give you a hand up when you need it. Share what you feel with those that are safe. Don't isolate. That's another way that people end up stalling out, is they just tell no one and they stay by themselves. Change the story that you tell yourself from a grievance story to a hero story. That's a suggestion that Fred Luskin makes in Forgive for Good, and I think it's so true. When we talk about this, we'll either talk about it in two terms. We'll either talk about how, all of this was done to me, or my mate did this, trying to rationalize or justify what we did. But it's a much better story when you begin to tell yourself the story of, wow, this happened or my mate did this, and let me tell you how somehow God was able to allow me to transcend it, or I was able to transcend it. Another way to avoid stalling out is just giving back to others. There's something about giving back to others in need. It's the 12th step in the 12-step program that really continues to build you up and keeps you focused on life and bringing life, rather than that temptation to keep looking back all the time. You want to let go of all of that dot connecting. Your life is not defined by what happened here. It is a tragic event. What will define you is how you respond to that. And choosing life and choosing to be, to transcend and use this as a catalyst to become a better person, that's what you want. So set a vision of who you want to become and what type of marriage you would like to be. One of the questions that I'll ask people, and when I'm talking to them as a couple, I'll say, what type of marriage do you want? And I have each of them tell me what type of marriage they want. And then I'll ask them, what type of partner would you need to be to get that sort of marriage? It's funny to me how often they'll sit there and start telling me what type of partner they need to be married to have that sort of marriage. And I'm going, no, that's not my question. My question is, what type of partner would you have to have that sort of marriage? And when I get that answer, then I ask the final question, and what is it about you that gets in the way of being that sort of partner? Because once you can identify what is it about you that blocks your ability to get what you ultimately want, then you can begin to see perhaps what you need to address to not stall out, but instead to thrive and to find everything you're looking for, to healing.